From the start of my Jewish education, I learned about two important topics, Shabbat and Tzedakah. As it turns out, the parsha that I studied for my bar mitzvah, Vayikel, focuses on these core values of Judaism. While the Israelites camped near the base of Mount Sinai, God gave Moses a set of rules and instructions to convey to the people. God wanted the people to build a tabernacle, also known as a Mishkan. This would be the main place of worship. In the speech, the Israelites were given a big list of materials that were to be used to build the Mishkan. God's list included everything like gems, minerals, or even animal skins. These materials were supposed to be donated by the community. One of God's rules was that this work was going to be completed every day except for Shabbat, the day of rest. If they didn't follow this strict rule, they were told that they were to be put to death. This sounds to me like a fierce and outdated punishment, but I'll revisit this later. The project of building the Mishkan was a big one, and everyone had to participate. The instructions were not just for the leaders and important people, but also for all the rest of the Israelites. A key principle of tzedakah, or the act of giving charity, is that everyone is obligated to give, no matter how wealthy one is. Joseph Caro, a famous Jewish scholar from the Middle Ages, wrote, "Even if one can only give very little, yet he or she should not abstain from giving, for the little is equally worthy to the large contribution of the rich." Soon the donations for the Mishkan were pouring in, and before Moses knew it, the people actually gave too many donations, and he had to force them to stop giving them materials. 2 years ago, my mom and I took a B'nai Jeshurun class on the weekends all about tzedakah. One of the things that I learned was that when giving tzedakah, you have to consider that what you might want to give might not be what the recipient needs. For example, donating clothes that are torn and dirty to the Salvation Army can be worse than giving nothing at all, because the workers have to spend time and resources dealing with all those items that they can't use. To bring our learning to life, the class created a tzedakah project that would serve our Upper West Side community. We found out that a school in the area was in need of many copies of 2 different books because they didn't have enough for each student to have their own. Our class reached out to our family and friends to buy the needed books for us to donate to the school. We then delivered all the books we collected and met the principal, who emphasized how we were able to fill the specific needs of their students. By taking the time to find out what was needed, we could do the most good. This reminds me of my parsha because in both circumstances, tzedakah was given in order to strengthen the community, but the donors had to learn what to give and how much was needed rather than satisfying their own needs. My parsha also expressed the importance of Shabbat, the day of rest, as God gave the Israelites rules about when they could work on the Mishkan. Specifically, God intended for the people to work on 6 days and have complete rest on the 7th day. Like I mentioned before, it says in my parsha that if somebody worked on the Sabbath, they should be put to death. I have 2 thoughts here. First, I have to think that God may have just been making a threat to ensure we remember the importance of Shabbat. But also, after a little digging, I learned that Torah scholars determined it was both impossible and unjust to enforce this, along with other similar capital punishments that would have to be made in court. I think this day is good for the Jews to observe because this is a time of reflection, a time to be with family, and a time for community to gather for a meal, a prayer, or to share something special. When we celebrate Shabbat each week at my camp, we all go to services together as one camp and have a special meal with each other. We participate together as a whole camp in evening activities which don't normally happen. It brings us together. If Shabbat was not designated as the 7th day of every week, and Jews could choose their day of rest, it would not prevent us from having a break in the week, but it might be in isolation from family and friends, rather than Shabbat being a time to celebrate together. Scholar Achad Ha'am is known for saying that more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews. I think he is saying that on the day of rest, the Jews unite to keep the community intact. which can be crucial in times of celebration, like a bar mitzvah, but even more so in times of hardship, from the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem to the horrors of the Holocaust, or more recently, the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, and even now, the outbreak of the coronavirus. The virus has directly impacted all of us watching, yet my bar mitzvah is still happening right now. Rabbi Mordecai M. Kaplan, who inspired the movement of Reconstructionist Judaism, said, "Shabbat is a pause of our brushwork." I think similarly with Rabbi Kaplan. Through the week, we all have a lot to do, from doing schoolwork or to having meetings, to playing sports, or even deciding what to order on Seamless. These are our day-to-day experiences, or as Kaplan said, the brushwork. Shabbat is a step back from this, and therefore, a pause of the brushwork. Professor Pinchas Pelly, an Israeli Torah commentator, said the purpose of Shabbat is to remind us what is really important in human life. While this is interesting, I don't necessarily agree. Shabbat may give us extra time to consider what is most important, but we can remind ourselves of what we value every day and not only once a week. Through the study of Parshat Vayikel, I noticed a connection that relates to my becoming a bar mitzvah. As I become a bar mitzvah, I'm growing to a contributing member of our community, not just my Jewish community, but also my school, my camp, and my family. In my parsha, God tells the entire community to give tzedakah and to celebrate Shabbat. God provides a framework for how a group can act as a unified community. The message to the Israelites was to work together on the same days to create a central home for them to share. This gives me a better understanding of what is expected of me and brings to life the importance of the values I learned way back in kindergarten. To give tzedakah and to do what I can to mark Shabbat is a special day. As I move forward from this celebration, I'm ready to keep my eye on other ways that I can add to all the communities I'm a part of, and to remember the value of working, celebrating, learning, and even pausing my brushwork with all of you. Shabbat Shalom.